This episode of the Restoration Today podcast is brought to you by Actionable Insights. Actionable Insights is the restoration industry's leading educational nonprofit, helping contractors and carriers settle claims on the daily. Go to getinsights.org. Hey restorers, thanks for checking out this episode of the Restoration Today podcast. Today I have a brand new guest with me. I'm very excited to have him here. We are talking about the dynamics of family-run businesses. I know that is a huge topic in the restoration industry. Many family-owned businesses here of all shapes and sizes. I mean, all the way up to, the ATIs of the world that are still family-run, all the way down to, small mom and pop shops. With some people don't like that terminology, so sorry if I just offended anybody who's listening. But anyway, all in good fun. So I am joined by Rob Ferguson. He is the CEO of Ferguson Alliance, and they help family-run businesses kind of accelerate and overcome problems and challenges, reach big goals, profitability, succession planning, all those things. So Rob, I'm very excited to have you here. Thank you very much for taking the time. So I'm going to toss it over to you and have you start by introducing yourself and share a little bit about the Ferguson Alliance and who you are, what you do.
Sure. Thank you, Michelle. I'm really pleased to be here. So I founded this firm almost 14 years ago. And there was no master plan, no design. I had spent 30 years prior building companies and running companies. They were either public companies, private equity sponsored, so more on the institutional side. Mm-hmm. And I had an opportunity to serve on a board of a 100-year-old fifth generation family business. And at the same time, I was employed as a non-family member CEO for a 100-year-old business. And I was the first non-family member CEO in 100 years to take over the business. And so that was my first real introduction into family businesses. And I don't know, that was maybe 17 years ago or so. And the business where I was on a board of directors was highly successful. And the business that I was hired to come in was in the zone of insolvency. It was really struggling. And my job was to come in, fix the business, and then sell it, because the family shareholders, fifth generation, were just not playing well together, and they didn't want to continue their family legacy. So it was a tale of two cities for me, and I just fell in love with family businesses. And I think the primary reason I started this firm is because of the lessons from these two experiences I had. And we're all driven here at Ferguson Alliance to do whatever we can to help these family businesses reach prosperity and extend their life cycle. It's just kind of who we are, and we're all have worked in family businesses. We are not professional consultants. We've worked in family businesses either as family members or non-family members, and we don't sell products. This isn't a cover story to kind of buy our system or our computer program or sign up for something. We don't do that. We really work shoulder to shoulder with our clients on what their biggest challenges are, perhaps succession planning, whether that's preparing the company for generational succession, or maybe the patriarch or the owner doesn't have a family successor. We help them prepare for a sale. So that's kind of what we do. There's a lot of other stuff in between the bricks. That's the mortar we call, where we do leadership development, executive coaching. But in essence, that's who we are.
So our industry is going through a big consolidation phase where there's PE coming in and buying up a lot of companies, and then a lot of the bigger players buying smaller companies and making bigger and bigger companies. And I talk to family-owned and run businesses every day that are like, should I do that? Am I going to be able to stay competitive? Am I going to be able to exist in a consolidated market like this? What do you tell companies like that when they come to you thinking, I don't know what my future looks like? Can I still exist in a world that's consolidating?
Every family business has this dilemma. They have three choices, three goals that they have to make a decision on. And usually one of the three goals are going to be sacrificed. And those three goals are we going to grow? are we going to keep control, or are we going to continue having liquidity? So in other words, making distributions. So it's between liquidity, control, and growth. So some families might be at a point of, I want to continue to grow and I want to continue to have liquidity, but I don't mind giving up some control of the business to do that. And that's a lot of times where venture capitalists or private equity firms fall in. If that's your decision, I would highly recommend, that's almost should be a mandate. Get an advisor that's been there, done that can guide you through the process, because these family business owners, they're experts in their industry and delivering on their value proposition, but they're not experts in negotiating or preparing and negotiating and then ultimately closing on a sale. Yeah. And that's what private equity companies do every single day. And they're going to do everything they can to make that acquisition to their advantage. So you want to have somebody in your team, an advisor, that will advocate for you to keep the deal balanced and to help assess is this the right thing to do or not, because a lot of times it's not. But we have many clients that have gone down that road, and it was a great opportunity for them. But it really gets into, are we growing, are we going to keep control, or do we want to maintain liquidity? And to your example, if you want to continue to grow and continue to have liquidity, then that means you're going to give up some control. If you go to private equity, I will put a footnote on this. You most likely will give up majority control if private equity comes in. So they're not going to come in to do it and not have control of the business, but the family owner will maintain some ownership in there.
What are some of the strengths that you see family-owned businesses bringing to the overall economy, the overall marketplace? I want to go into, some of the downsides to family-owned businesses, but let's start with the positives, the strengths.
Well, first of all, over 60% of our country's economy comes from family businesses. So, this is the economic engine of our country. 2 years ago, my research says that 2 years ago, 78% of all the new jobs created 2 years ago was from family businesses. Almost 80%.
Wow.
Yeah, it's wow. pretty amazing.
Yeah.
A lot of folks don't realize this, that over a third of Fortune 500 companies are family businesses. So when you look at the whole realm of our economy and our capitalistic philosophy here in our country, it's the family businesses that's really driving that. And then I just want to end on the other thing too. What I love so much about family businesses is they are the drivers of philanthropy in our country.
Yes.
The majority of philanthropy comes from family businesses. The majority of innovation comes from family businesses. So I guess that's why it's our mission here at Alliance to try to help reinvigorate family businesses. An alarming statistic that got my attention many, many years ago is that in the 1950s, the average lifespan of a business was 60 years. Okay. Today, now back in the 50s, they didn't separate between family owned and S&P 500. So I just know 60 years. But today, family owned businesses is 24 years. So 60 to 24. Now S&P 500, will note their average lifespan is 15 years. So family businesses do live longer, but you can see the decline in that lifespan, and there's a lot of reasons for it. But what we're here to do is help kind of reverse that trend and help these clients of ours reach their prosperity and build on their legacy, so they can continue to be part of the growth engine of this country.
I love it. Those are great statistics. Thank you for having those. What are some of the unique challenges on the flip side that you see family owned and run businesses facing that you more, I don't want to say traditional because that's not the right word, but partnership type businesses have?
Well, let's just look at non-family businesses. So whether you're a family business or a non-family business, you have the same problems in business. How do I keep my customers happy? How do I keep my employees happy? How do I keep my shareholders happy? Right. So every business leader has that. But now when you bring the dynamics of family in, it's now how do I maintain my relationship with my family?
Yeah.
How do I make decisions for the business and still get invited to Thanksgiving dinner with my family?
Yes.
So those are some real challenges. And when we think about family, a lot of times family leaders remember their cousin when they were 12 years old. And now their cousin is in the job as a partner with them. And I remember when you took my baseball cards and never returned them. Right. So you have those historical experiences that you don't find inside of a non-family business. And then the other thing too is there's just a lot of emotion, right? Family is family. I mean, it's everything from love and admiration to revenge and suspicion. And so when you have this range of emotions and then you interject that into business, that's where it becomes a challenge. And that's actually that intersection is where we come in and help advise our clients.
Okay. All right. So do those conflicts ever reach a boiling point where there's a point of no return? Have you run into a company yet where there's just a point of no return? Or can most companies get back to a place if they've reached a boiling point where we can work through this? It might take some time, but we can work through this.
Yeah, it's the latter, Michelle. I mean, we've all been in business for a long time at Ferguson Alliance. You're a business owner yourself. There's just not a problem that can't be solved. I mean, it's in business. I mean, there's always going to be a solution, but it does take perseverance. It takes time. It takes advisors to find that solution. We have found that we've been able to, the point of no return. I mean, that just causes another decision. When you talk about a boiling point, what we try to do is have those conversations that we can take away the emotions and the reactions, just deal with the issues and the facts and get to a decision. And that's hard to do without a facilitator.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the most common kind of pain points or frustrations you see boiling and bubbling up from a family run business?
Number one issue is money.
Yeah.
Money. Some family members want distributions. Some family members want to invest it back in the business. That's a lot of concern. And then, or, how to best use the money or investments in the family business. So, I would say that the number one issue that we deal with is money.
That makes sense. And then when it comes to succession planning, I think that this could also be a similar issue. There's kind of two sides to the coin, right? Nobody wants to come into the business and then maybe you're looking at selling as a succession plan or maybe an employee. But what if you have multiple children or cousins or somebody who wants the CEO main ownership seat? Then how do you walk, especially parent owners, through what to do if they have multiple children who want to take over?
Yeah. This is the reason why the life cycle of family businesses is declining. You're hitting the real issue. A couple more statistics. Only 40% of businesses survive through the second generation. And there's some research that says it's 30%. Our research says 40%. And so then it really drops off, but survive through third generation, it's about 12%. And then it goes down to 3% less than the fourth and fifth generation is less than 1%. So the reason why we see this is because there's not proper planning to put in place for succession. And I always encourage whoever is the leading generation, that needs to be their number one priority, is to think about how is this business and this legacy going to continue on. And so building a succession plan is critical. To answer your question related to, well, what if one of the family members wants their child to be the CEO or something like that? We help our family business clients build what we call a family constitution. In that family constitution, it's just like the Constitution of the United States. This is how, Constitution of the United States is how we're going to govern our country, the well-being and the health. Well, in the family business constitution, this is how we're going to govern our family business. And it's additive to your corporate legal documents. It really translates your corporate legal documents into layperson's terms, but it goes a step further, such as how do family members become a shareholder? How do family members become an employee? What are the rules we're going to put in place? And so if you can get that decided now early, maybe even before the grandchildren are even born, it's a lot easier. It gets really challenging when you're talking about real people and you've already got a relationship with. So I would say work with an advisor that is skilled and experienced in helping family businesses build their family constitution, build their succession plan. And I think that the leading generation, whether it's first, second, or third, needs to take that on as a priority. Too many of our clients that we get introduced to before we kind of talk to them is they always say, I heard this many times about succession planning. Well, my dad didn't do it for me. I had to figure it out. So I'm just going to let my daughter figure it out. Well,
please don't.
Yeah. Why would you do that? Yeah, that makes no sense at all. So we try to help them change their mindset about that.
Okay, I like that. And I'm also curious on kind of finding the balance between family business and family fun, like actual family. In restoration, it's a 24/7 business, right? You have to be on all the time. Fires, floods happen anytime, hurricanes happen anytime. And so I know that it can be really hard for businesses, and I know couples that run businesses together, and it can be very difficult to kind of turn that switch off and also have family and find the balance. So how do you walk families through that and making sure that family fun still exists in the family business?
Well, certainly we point that out, and we actually have some tools. We call it the Freedom Finder, where we look at the whole life, the whole wheel of life for family members in the family business. So we're not just looking at business and career, right? We want to look at the whole life. How are things going for you financially? How are things going for you with your marriage? How are things going with your family, your friends, your recreation, your spiritual activities? We look at holistically, and we help our clients put emphasis on the whole life, not just a segment of life. The other thing that we do, particularly with our larger families, is we really insist fun is important and necessary. And with our large families, we have family meetings, an annual family meeting. And in that family meeting, it's usually part of a family vacation. So they'll have this family meeting at a resort, someplace like that, where it's probably, I don't know, 70 to 80% fun. And then there's a family meeting that just gives the overview of the family legacy, the family business, very high level. And then after that, there's usually either an annual shareholder meeting, which only family shareholders attend, or sometimes we have, for our very large families, we have what we call a family council, which that family council would include shareholders and non-shareholders, but also includes the next generation. Some families say, hey, if you're 12 years of age or older, you're going to attend, or if you're 18 years of age or older, you'll attend a family council meeting, and just to advise or to observe the goings on. So we do some of those things, but yeah, it's definitely got to be coupled with fun. And that's the other thing about family businesses. I mean, they do know how to have fun,
Mhm.
and they know how to have fun with their employees as well. And I think that's a real the biggest competitive advantage that a family business has is their innate ability of integrating family values into the culture of their business. Now, if you can discern the good family values and integrate those into your culture, and then understand maybe the family values you don't want to put in there,
Mhm.
own it, and be intentional about not putting those in. But that's the real competitive weapon that family businesses has. It's their culture.
Okay. And I saw this terminology, I think, on your website as I was kind of getting to know you a little bit through the digital world. You talked about founders leading from the grave. What does that mean?
Mm. Well, we always advise. So there are some things that founders can do in their corporate bylaws or buy-sell agreements that would force certain decisions after they've passed. And we really we watch. That's a big watch out for us, and we don't
Yeah.
do. We don't advise that. Now there are certain things that we do want the founders to influence from generation to generation. You know, and that's really more on the values of the family, the legacy of the family, the priorities that maybe the family has with philanthropy. So those things, yes, but to to get to force an operational decision, um, you know, that could happen 10 years from now, and the founder's not even around, and the world's different, is not a good thing to do.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. That, I think that would be very frustrating.
So
Okay.
I'll give you a quick story on that, and
Yes, please.
very,
That
very
was what I
quick
was going to
story.
ask for next. A story. Go for it.
So one of our clients, there were their brother-in-laws, okay, and the founder of the business, one of the gentlemen was his father, and the other was father-in-law. Okay, so literally, this is a true story. The founder was in ICU, dying, and brings the two boys in. The boys were grown men; they were in their 40s, I think. And the father basically said, "Boys, I'm going to give each of you 50% of the business when I die, and my death is imminent, and you're going to get this business 50%." And they, "Oh, thanks, Dad, Pop, we really appreciate it." And then the patriarch says, "You'll be bankrupt by the end of the year," and then dies. So the two boys, they were devastated that that's how he felt and how he set them up. So he set them up saying, "Yeah, you're going to ruin this company." So what the boys did, the men, is they made a pact. As they said, number one, we will never let our business affairs affect our family affairs. Number two, we will make all of our decisions consensually. And if we both don't agree, then we're just not going to do it. That was their pact. So they rocked along. I mean, this was a nice sized business. It was probably greater than $50 million in annual revenue. And they're rocking along, doing first year, they do okay. Second year, their revenues are down, profits down even more. Third year, revenues down more, profits down a lot more. And now they're moving into their next year, and they're trying to figure out, they're barely going to break even. They may not break even. They're moving into the zone of insolvency, and now they don't know what to do. Well, what was happening? Then they called us, and then we came in. What was happening is they made this conscious decision that they were going to ignore the tough decisions because they didn't want it to impact their family relationship. So if
Oh,
it was going to be really a difficult decision, they would ignore it. And then the other thing that they did is, because they made this pact that we're going to always be consensual, so they were trying to be co-leaders, but they clearly had different skill sets.
Yeah.
Very clearly. Only one of the two was somewhat qualified to run the company. The other one was not. And so decisions weren't being made. They just kept kicking them down the road. And so that's when, the market changed on them. They were not proactive. And so they were losing revenue. Their costs continue to go up because they couldn't agree on, how are we going to manage costs and who's going to have to make tough decisions with their expenses. And so that was a big problem. And so that was a story about whether it was intentional or unintentional by the patriarch. That act of what he just did, here's 50%. That was the other thing. You each get 50%, and you're going to be bankrupt by the end of the year. Set them up for almost near disaster. Now they pulled out of it and did just fine, but that's what I mean about managing from the grave.
Wow, that is quite a story, and that is something that I find interesting with when you have siblings or whatever run a business. Like ATI in our industry is a really good example. There's three brothers who are essentially running it, but they all have very different and distinct roles. And I think that's part of the reason that the company has grown so much. Dad passed it to them, and their roles, they don't overlap. They are very and so I think that that's a cool, testament to what family businesses can do. Okay, Rob, anything else? I appreciate you being here. Any other stories you want to share? Any other tidbits? Anything we haven't talked about that you want to share before we wrap it up?
The only thing I would just say is, how do you find an advisor, and should you be looking for a business advisor? So there are so many people out there that call themselves advisors or consultants or whatever it is. I would highly recommend a generalist business advisor, somebody that's been there, done that in the trenches to help you. Because you can't get through all the business challenges and the family challenges by yourself. Your attorney is going to be very helpful from a legal perspective. Your insurance agent is going to be very helpful from a risk management perspective. Your CPA is going to be very helpful from a tax perspective. But you don't have somebody on your advisory team that's looking at it holistically. And that I would highly recommend that you seek out that help. And that can be in the form of just a single business advisor. It could be in the form of setting up an advisory board, which we highly recommend and help our clients do, or a fiduciary board. The more advisors you can have, and then also be willing to fire your advisors, right? Sometimes, advisors get stale, or we call it go native. They start going native, and they're not providing you with the unbiased feedback that you need. So, just because you hire an advisor doesn't mean they're going to stay with you forever and ever. You want to hire advisors that bring the expertise and experience that you need in the moment. So that's what I leave your listeners to think about.
Awesome. Well, Rob, thank you so much. And for people who are listening, if you want to find out more about Rob and his team, or check out their resources or their blogs, they have a lot of really good blog posts related to family-run businesses and some advice there. So you can go to Ferguson-Alliance.com and you can find more information there. But Rob, thank you so much for joining me in the wisdom that you shared today. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you, Michelle.
For more Restoration Today and the latest news, visit our website, cnrmagazine.com. And find the latest episodes of the Restoration Today podcast on your favorite podcasting platform.